Welcome back to Unplugged and Unstoppable, the podcast for awakened people who are done playing small, done explaining themselves, and done waiting for permission. I'm Robin Campbell, and today's guest is someone I've known since around 2018, I guess. We'll figure that out in a minute. We found each other on Facebook, two people who saw the world the same way, who refused to swallow what the box was telling them, and both knew on an innate level that something was deeply wrong. But here's what makes Lesley different. She didn't just wake up. She came back from somewhere most people don't come back from. Addiction, shame, and years of feeling not normal enough or safe enough to face the world. She's raw, she's real, and she did the work, the actual work, shadow work, trauma work, the whole messy, beautiful thing. And here she is now, assistant director, film student, about to launch some projects which we'll hear about shortly, launching not but one, but two podcasts, genuinely living in what she calls the magic in the mundane. Lesley Gray is proof, actual proof, that when you do the inner work, when you unpeel the layers and stop numbing and stop hiding, life opens up in ways you genuinely couldn't have imagined from the bottom. This conversation is for everyone who still feels in the messy middle, the one who knows that they are meant for more, but can't quite see the path yet. Lesley, welcome to Unplugged and Unstoppable. How are you doing?
I'm great, Robin. Wow, what an amazing introduction that was. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Now, we kind of joined or crossed paths without really saying hello, probably. And I reckon it was about 2018, 2019, when some of our friendship groups were waking up to a certain truth, and we can cover that if you like in a minute.
Yeah.
And but I want to start at the beginning, not to do highlight reels, but can you take us back to where you were, I guess, before then, and when you first started putting content out, and what were you feeling like inside?
Well, it was 2015 when my worldview severely shifted. It had already kind of shifted just because of my personal life and stuff a few years beforehand, but kind of engaging with that work, it was very isolating, so I wasn't really wanting to project my energy outside of what I was doing. So it was probably a couple of years after 2015, so maybe about the end of 2016, 2017, when I started to have the confidence to be able to articulate all these new findings that I'd learned about myself and the reality, and myself in the reality, and how I fitted into all of it. But even although I had a wee bit of courage to kind of get vocal with some of the stuff that I'd learned. But also at that time there wasn't very many people, especially in Scotland. There was a select few of us who were, kind of singing the same hymn, if you like. And I got a lot of pushback for a lot of the information that I was sharing because it severely challenged people's world perception that they already had pre-existing within them. And I wasn't actually fully prepared for that also. My mum being one of the biggest reactions that I got. A lot of people thought I was not right, Lesley, 9/11, right, okay, we can kind of understand that, various other things, but some things were just too far for people. So yeah, I learned a lot from that. I learned to be more mindful.
Okay.
And more strategic with how, who, and is this really important, because I did actually go through a stage, this was a massive learning curve for me, where, okay, my intentions were good, I wanted to help people, but also going in trying to convince people of things, it's futile. Planting seeds is better, because then people naturally and organically come to the conclusions themselves, which is also empowering, So I found I was going in too strong, too much, brute force, and it didn't get me anywhere apart from lots of chaos,
Yeah. So you said something in one of your earlier videos that really caught me, and that was you said your support system had been on lockdown for 10 years because you didn't feel normal. You didn't feel like you belonged to society. Was that the thing that finally cracked things open for you, or could you explain some of those feelings?
Yeah, well, I had always, like, really actually deeply known, I would say from a child, that things were not right. And I always had deep questions about the world when I was very young. And it used to
Okay.
actually frustrate my mum a lot. Like, Mum, what am I? You're Lesley Gray. No, I know that. But what am I? Well, you're a human. Yeah, I know that, Mum. But where did I come from? You came from me. Yeah, but before that, Mum, like this incessant thing going on, and that's never really subsided within me. And I think that's why that period during my time, I think it's actually important. I think it's a pivotal component of self-development, is you do kind of have to go into isolation. And I mean, the thing about normal, like I have never felt normal, but now my understanding of normal now is that normal is really a kind of false construct that we've all been indoctrinated to believe is the thing to be. And if we go outside of those boxes, but if you're born outside of those boxes already, you're going to just experience the world a wee bit jaggier than other
Yeah.
people. So whilst those periods, they were really difficult. It was daunting. You're kind of in the unknown. You don't even know really at the time if what you're doing is helping or working. You're just doing it because this is the plan and this is what you're going through. And it's only now, upon reflection, I can actually see how important that all that time was, spent in isolation. But again, it's almost like it wasn't a choice. I just kind of feel like the way that I've grown has honestly been so facilitated by my reality, by the universe that I've created through creating the inner verse, the universe inside me, and then naturally over time, it just doesn't happen overnight, but
Yeah.
over time, it then starts to begin to reflect in your external. And I've proved that to myself time and time and time again. So all this law of attraction and all this kind of stuff, we are bound in this realm through the principles, the energetic principles, and yeah, it's,
100%.
mhm.
I can certainly, like, there's a lot of labels getting thrown around these days, like the Great Awakening, or people are now really studying their emotional state and their energetic state because they realize they change their identity through the beliefs, or soften their old beliefs and then create new ones that will support them and help their growth. Then reality shifts around them, and that's quite profound when you learn it. But it's
Yeah.
certainly something I came across The Secret a way back, and I was doing personal development on a business level, but then coming to the realization of some of the truths that we did around 2016, 2017, it does shift your perspective again, because then you realize, oh crumbs, I've been brainwashed, programmed, given programs, constructs. A lot of people, I think, these days are really learning that to change their energetic state and change their beliefs, because after all, beliefs are quite often inserted by programs and things that don't serve us. Once we learn to kind of shift that and soften our beliefs, we find that our reality starts to change around us, and that's a wonderful thing. But I need to take you back now, Lesley, because you've obviously gone through an immense amount of work. And if it's okay with you, would you mind taking us way back? Because we started our introduction touching on a couple of subjects, addiction being one, and then how you coped with that situation and through your recovery, and how you are today. Would be wonderful to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, so it wasn't until the very end of my 20s, and this is actually an astrological thing. When you turn 29 to 30, you go through a thing called Saturn return, and it just makes you get really serious about your life and look at things. It's like daddy energy, the father, the reparenting, the protection kind of element of things. And it was, that pivotal point in my life that made me realise that from being a child, like, I could quite easily see systematically how I ended up on the trajectory and the path that I was on, because when I was really young, when I was born, I had all sorts of, health problems. I was misdiagnosed with something that I didn't actually have. So they said I had cystic fibrosis. So my mum and dad were not really expecting me to live past 12, 13, because back then that was kind of the age, and as it turned out, it wasn't cystic fibrosis. I had a hole in my heart. But I'd already, been treated for this, and I had like kidney problems after that, and I was in and out of hospital, so I didn't really have a normal structured kind of life like all my other friends and stuff, because it was fueled with ill health, which also set up in my mind and my psychology was that, I was a victim. I was always sick. But also what it installed in me was that I then had no reason to doubt or question doctors, people in authority, people that were taught to trust. And, so me having this understanding that for anything that you ever have wrong physiologically, there is a pill for it. So it got to the point where I was on a medication every single day as a preventative, but in my later years, I've now learned that being on an antibiotic every single day was damaging me in ways that nobody knew. I didn't know. I actually believe that that's why I'm so tiny. I'm like very small, it's almost like the growth hormone in me maybe stopped or got, something put in its way, and I didn't fully develop because I've got like childlike proportions. So I really understood how my life ended up becoming the way that it did. So not also did I now have lots of dependencies on pharmaceutical drugs, I also had a chronic addiction to a substance called GHB.
Okay.
Which is quite a unique drug in and of itself. And a lot of the time when I tell people this, they're like, that is a really weird drug to get addicted to. How did that happen? Just because of the nature of it. So I had a total cocktail going on in my body.
Okay.
And actually the way that I kind of feel about it now is that I am actually lucky to be alive, because a lot of the time, again, the realizations all happened after. When you mix opiates with GHB, so they both suppress the body, they suppress the breathing.
Okay.
Sometimes I would go like blue, I would have weird things going on with my hands and my feet and stuff. And a lot of the time my body was probably actually shutting down. And, for whatever reason, nothing bad ever happened, and this is how I do feel divinely protected, because essentially the amount and the variant cocktails of all these different chemicals, when they're mixed together, it's wild, so the fact that I'm even here and I'm actually really healthy today, I don't have any health problems today, it has been a massive, massive journey. But some of the low points during my addiction, it's like, it was the realization that, my children were not getting the full scope of what I could be for them. Because when you're in addiction, it makes you extremely selfish, just by nature, And this is where the shame, the blame and the guilt and stuff, where all of that stuff inside me had compounded, and it's that keeps you in that sort of cycle. So I had basically myself realised I was either going to die, but at that time I actually felt like I wanted to die because I didn't know how to get out of it. All of my other friends were not interested in stopping, or, so that's where the isolation came from, because I felt like I had to be the one. I felt it so strong in my bones. If I don't do this, something really bad is going to happen, and I was like, I couldn't see a future without me being in my children's life. And that was the thing that was like, right, okay, you've got to do this now. And not also did I get rid of the recreational drugs. It was the pharmaceutical drugs, because I was like, hold on a minute. They're expecting me to keep on taking all these pills till the day that I die, but to make me better, but I'm never getting better. I was like, nah, this isn't, it's oxymoronic. It's just, there's something no right with this, you know? And again, I got a lot of pushback from my family because, you know, they trust their doctors. They always have, you know, and it was, this isn't right, you're crazy. But ever since I made that decision and never went back on it, all I've done is get better and better, more healthier, more sovereign, more grounded, more whole, you know, and it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made. But yes, ultimately it was a very difficult journey, because at that time I didn't have like addiction groups or anything like that. I didn't actually start going to addiction groups until about 5 years after I dealt with the substances, because I didn't really know that they were available.
Okay.
It was after meeting my partner, Sandy, who he had actually been an alcoholic for 27 years. And when I spoke to him about my experiences, he was like, are you sure you've never done like any recovery work or anything? And he said, because a lot of the how you've sort of went about things is, you know, quite similar as to how you would kind of do it. But what I noticed was I hadn't dealt with the psychological and the emotional part of my addiction, because even although, yes, I wasn't reliant upon substances to make me feel okay, I was still had this void inside me. And I think that's why I got so obsessive. You know, if you've got such a big energy in relation to addiction, you have to then plug that energy into something else. Otherwise, you know, something healthier. So while I was, you know, doing things that were more healthier, I then started to realise that the things that I was researching, my hobbies, I didn't just have a hobby, it was my life. It became everything. It was like engulfing me, you know, and I was like, this is not really your typical normal behaviour, you know. And I realised, I was like, man, there's still something there. And that was when I was like, right, I need to go and do this. And that's when I done the 12 steps and the fourth step. I always bang on about the fourth step to everybody, because to me, the 12 steps is actually alchemy, but they don't tell you it's alchemy, you know.
Wow.
Sort of imply things about religion and God. And if you've got like way back when, if as soon as somebody had to say God or religion to me, I would have been like, nah, because I was sort of brought up a wee bit of an atheist.
Okay.
I'm not an atheist now. I know the true magic of this realm, and like it's definitely an intelligent creator design, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, it was one of the most amazing things to understand. All my ickiness, all the horrible things I'd done to others, all the horrible things that had been done to me, all the resentments. And when you really see things in black and white, 'cause you've got to write them all down, you then begin to understand the pattern and the motivation behind why you choose to do the things that you do. And that was like all these pennies were dropping. I was just like, wow. And 9 times out of 10, it always came back to me. Always me. I was the one, you know, I was either choosing to allow something because I didn't have boundaries. You know, this is another big thing you learn about, is how to handle your energy. Are you just living up to people's expectations? You know, which is exhausting. So it's just this quiet unraveling of everything that you think you are and stripping yourself back down to nothing.
Yeah, that's so true. And I take it what we're kind of describing here is that you're moving from a place of blame, guilt that made you creep out about facing people, even on Facebook. And people probably have been out there, still out there now, feeling exactly the same, because you can go into yourself, like there's the isolation, and like your family are looking on and you're thinking, I just got to deal with this. So you talk about the 12 steps, and as alchemy, that's amazing. But then you moved on and you did some energy work. Is that right? Kinesiology, Reiki. Do you want to explain that? Human design, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so one of the modalities that I actually used to heal was kinesiology. So I went to an amazing kinesiologist, Carol, who works from her beautiful home. She's got an amazing healing room in Galashiels. I was just amazed at what I seen. So my sister went first for her session, and I was actually only meant to be getting Reiki that day. But as soon as I seen what was going on with my sister, I was like, I want that. That looks amazing. I was just so fascinated by it because out of all the kind of healing modalities that's out there, kinesiology is the one that seems to deal with all the energetic systems. So it deals with the lymphatic, it deals with the meridians, it deals with the neurovascular, it deals with the emotional, the mental, everything. And I'd never seen anything like this before. And I was like, wow, this is super interesting, you know? So I began my journey. I had about a year's worth of healing with Carol, and quite quickly she was like, I think you would make a brilliant kinesiologist, and I'm starting a course, and do you want to participate? So that was how I got into that, you know, and it's, yeah, still to this day, it really is incredible.
Tell us how it works. I hear you talk about the meridians, which the Chinese deal with that with acupuncture, don't they? And there's the EFT tapping, which I guess is similar. It's tapping into that, the energetic system. But how does kinesiology work if you become a practitioner?
It's basically, so you've got 42 muscles within the body, and kinesiology is based on muscle testing. So, you know, our body responds to touch, and we go in and we ask the body, you know, where is it that the body needs to go? So we're actually tapping into the subconscious. So it's not the person consciously, it's not me consciously. All that's happening is I'm asking the body. So the person normally comes with like a list of things that's wrong that they want to work through. And the beauty about kinesiology is that it brings you to the biggest issue first, and it will ask you to balance that. Because 9 times out of 10, once you balance the biggest thing, the other things get better, you know? So based on what the body tells us, we then have to go in, ask the body, and it might want work done on the lymphatics or the neurovascular holding points. There's like loads and loads of different kind of routes and pathways that it goes down. But the beauty of it is that it's almost like a fully interactive experience with the person who's healing also. So they come to learn how their body works, how their energy is on that very unique individual perspective, because every single body is completely different. There is no one body that is the same, you know? It's based on that. You tailor make it based on what your subconscious mind needs and what it tells you, you know?
Let me give you a story, because you've just triggered a memory for me. I thought I had food intolerance to wheat. So I went to my doctor and he said, yeah, you've got bloating due to wheat. So was it wheat? No, it wasn't wheat. Dairy. He thought it was dairy. So he said, cut out all dairy. And I thought, right, I'm going to go healthy now. I'm going to have whole grain sandwiches, ham salad, nothing, no dairy. And I remember one week I just started a new job and I changed the diet the same week. And I was going into a meeting and I had new bosses all around me and I had to do my piece. It was only going to be a couple of minutes, but I remember the food intolerance got to such a level I couldn't see. I was looking at like bright stars, like you've looked into the sun for too long. And I just remember feeling dizzy, really out of control, like really stressed by it all. Like I said a few words. I was embarrassed. I came out of that meeting thinking, what's just happened? And then I saw an advert for a kinesiologist and I went to see her and she had all these different vials of food. First of all, she asked me, she said, have you had any operations or trauma or anything of this nature in the past? And I said, do you know what? Yeah, I've had several where I had anesthetic, antibiotics. Antibiotics was the thing that was spoiling my gut biome. And she said, I think you might have some kind of, let's do a food test. So she brought out all these different food types, probably, I don't know, 20 different food types. And my body was telling her, she went, no, it's not this. It's not this, not this. It's definitely yeast. Yeast in the bread is causing this thing in you. So I then went to unleavened bread or sourdough bread. And all of my situation change for the better. So I can support what you're saying. It just triggered a memory. I'd forgotten all about it. So that's amazing.
Yeah. So that is one of the things that we do in kinesiology. I've had it done on me, and the body, it does know, It's one of these things, it can be quite difficult to explain, but once you experience it, you're like, right, okay, you like, and it helps you develop a trust and a relationship with your body. And this is where I feel there's like a massive disconnect with people, and it's like over this last 12 years, I've just became more embodied and more embodied and more embodied. And one of the things, I think we kind of touched on this earlier, is that the biggest component that really helps us getting healthier is action. And people hope and I would love for this and I would love for that. And it's like, well, it's that reality is not that far away for you. If you take an action upon it, that'll bring you closer to it,
Yeah.
And this is how I feel. If people really start to get connected with their actual bodies again and see it for the masterpiece of biological, technological equipment that it actually is, and see it as a house, a container for a soul, rather than just a body. It's not just a body. Like, this is the highest bit technological advancement ever. It's smarter than a computer. It's
I agree.
yeah.
And also, like modern medicine completely ignores is it called the endocannabinoid system?
Yeah.
And that part of our system, obviously certain types of people really get hold of that, especially like I think of Rastafarian culture, and they've totally embraced that part of our body for the right reasons, because they know that that's how we connect to our higher self. And I guess I'm still a newbie in stuff like this, but it's really obvious to me now that the mainstream system, along with social media, the black mirrors in our hands, that are manipulating our perception and certainly manipulating our medical solution production line so that we remain customers forever, like your story previously. It's no wonder that they try and obfuscate or rubbish things like Chinese medicine, because the Chinese practitioners, you go to them and they have a bespoke treatment, whatever that might be there, and they will do that with the acupuncture, won't they? Or come up with a herbal remedy, and 9 times out of 10 they've got it right, because they're doing what you're describing. I guess they're asking you questions and prompt and finding what your body's responding to. So you made a comment about social media in one of your videos going back probably 5-6 years ago, and you talked about the addiction to that. And I guess you may have been, we're talking 2021. Talk us about your journey through the COVID period and how you dealt with it, and what was your kind of survival technique, and how did you stay on top of things?
Well, so in 2019 was actually when I joined Secret Energy, which is a metaphysical school ran by Sivan Bomar, who has a YouTube channel called Innerversity. And to me, he is the most prolific, best metaphysical, wise teacher ever. And not only has he made this like real and ancient information digestible to people who, maybe have not studied these things for years and years and years, and he's actually turned it into an actual actionary thing that you can do. So that's when I'd learned about detoxing, meditation, yoga, implemented them into my life also. So that had primed me, right? So all of 2019, the prime in, but it was him that actually, I think in about October 2019, he was mentally preparing us for what was going to happen in 2020. Now, what I will say is, yes, I was taking what he was saying into consideration and running with it, but also in the back of my mind, I was like, no, this isn't going to happen in my lifetime. Like, because he was so sure. He predicted the vaccines. Like so much stuff that came
Really
to
amazing.
pass. So when it happened, and this coincided. In fact, I'll talk about that separately because it's a whole thing in and of itself. So by the March time, I think that was when everybody in the world were starting to, especially in Scotland, now they were starting to realise. And I had even so the February time, I was starting to get vocal about what was coming. I was talking about eventually it will end up in a vaccine. And the pushback I've had, God knows how many Facebook accounts I've had because I was in jail permanently because of the
Yeah, me
things that I
too.
was sharing. Everybody, it wasn't common knowledge. And I actually felt like, my neighbours and my surrounding people were like the pushback and the hate, even although they maybe didn't say it to my face, but energetically, you could just feel people just, if they could, they would have just shut me up because it didn't want to hear it. Why would the government lie? And all of this kind of stuff. So I was super solid and strong within myself. 2020 was actually probably one of the best years of my life.
Is that
Right.
right?
I loved,
Amazing.
but for all sorts of reasons, like for things like I was already strengthening and like learning all of this amazing stuff about myself. I was being of service to others at a time when actually the world really, really needed people like me in it to hold that polarity, to hold the nuance, to, be like, just because see the fear levels, oh man,
I know.
just existing in the reality at that time, it did require some very strong individuals out there. And I was lucky enough to be connected with so many of them. So I never felt alone. I was never in fear. If anything, I felt like everything in my life up until that point had primed me and prepared me to be who I was during that time. And I know that's probably a different contrast to how a lot of other people experienced it.
But most of us saw through the BS within, a day or two, a few days. I remember at work just doing the numbers. Like when it first broke in China, I was thinking, the first Google search I did was, what are the worldwide flu numbers? Like 200 million. How many people are falling down? 3. Okay, let's not panic just yet. And then I was doing all the NHS England and, all the proper research, just figuring out wood from trees, truth from fiction. And it didn't take long, as long as you did the research the right way. Okay, so what can I trust? What are the media sources I can trust? What are the levels of information I can rely on? But I must admit, it made so many of us, not medical experts, but people who were willing to at least study basic virology and study how these stats are collected and what the yellow card system and so on. And I can remember feeling I have to do something about this. I have to be on the front foot to at least alert my friends and family to a very present danger coming. And not only that, but societal change, which was threatening all our freedoms, and friends and family around me with small businesses. I could see them getting wiped out. Even in the march, I was saying, we've got to downsize the house. We've got to change things. We've got to come out of here, go to the country. We did it a year later. We moved a year later, but I was on it within kind of March, April. We got to move house. We got to downsize. So I guess your journey was very different because you were coming out of a period of personal discovery, transformation, inner healing, and empowerment, I guess. So now you're feeling strong in yourself, and that's rippling out, I imagine, to all areas of your life. Are you finding relationships now are getting stronger, and your outlook and what you're choosing to do with yourself and work-wise? Did you change that as well?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And this also coincided with me going into the psychological element of the recovery too. So once I had understood all of that, it was like I was off, because understanding my motivations better then just led me to make better choices. And that was actually when I found, so it was 2020 again, right before everything all kicked off in the February. I found this amazing guy who became my life coach, James McCourt, who is now like, whilst he will always be, like, if I need any kind of coaching, I will always go back to him, but he's a very good friend, you know. He was another person who was like me in terms of he was questioning the vaccines. Now, he was very public on his social media and stuff, and I thought I was incredibly brave because being a coach in your business needs people to come. But if people are like, oh, he's crazy because he's an anti-vaxxer and all this kind of stuff, you know. So it felt, again, divinely guided, you know, because there was a lot of people who were, you know, coaches and meant to be conscious and all that. And I'm like, if they don't even know how to question things in relation to your bodily autonomy and just accepting, I am going to inject something into my body, I don't know what's in it, and I'm only doing it because I'm scared. That, to me, I'm going to avoid that person to give me advice because they
Yeah, of
don't have
course.
that set, like that simple mechanism. Like it's what would be, it's almost like having deep intellectual honesty with yourself and the reality and being able to use that discernment. So he is a master at communication and helping you heal your history. So it was really when I started the work with James that I really went in and I healed my story, you know, now to the point where my story is my power. And I'm so detached from my story now, you know, it's like once upon a time, me even thinking about being able to tell people I had a chronic GHB addiction, I thought I was going to die carrying that secret. I never thought that I would love that, Lesley. Like that version of myself was keeping me alive. Like it was done a lot of work, you know, through researching Gabor Mate, who
Yeah.
really helped me understand things also. And I came so compassionate towards myself and compassionate towards other people because it's actually a really clever strategy. It's wise, you know, if you develop your own coping mechanisms to exist in this reality, and you do, you've got to give yourself credit for that. Okay, it maybe wasn't the best, but you were being resourceful with what you had at that time. And if I could have done better, I would have, but I was doing the best with what I had at that time, you know.
So,
So he brought me into a deep acceptance and a deep, empowering understanding of who I am, which then, you know, fortified all my relationships. And I also had like the deep support from my partner, Sandy, you know, 27 years alcoholic. He'll be coming up for maybe, 17 years now, sober or something. And he's incredibly wise and incredibly intelligent emotionally as well, which is, you know, emotional intelligence.
yeah,
In today's world, that is a
quite rare.
requirement. Again, I just feel like, because I was doing the work and my external reality was changing, it was bringing in the correct people that were going to help me grow. I was going to help them grow.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate having a good life coach in terms of what impact does it make in your life?
I mean, for me, it's definitely a 10, right? Because I needed somebody with that divine masculine energy to come in and to tell me and to be stern with me and no take any of my bullshit and be like, this needs to happen. You need to stop doing that. I'm going to hold the mirror up. And I'm like, oh God, this guy is brutal. But I'm like, I love it. Because it's when you give somebody the permission and then over years, like you build that trust with them. And he has always steered me, you know, the right way. He's always held my energy when it's all over the shop. And it's, the thing is, a lot of people are like, but it's money. And it's like, well, look, if you were going out spending X amount of money on cocaine at the weekends and stuff, it's like people are so readily able to dispose of their money when it comes to going out and having a good time and stuff. But it's like, for me, any extra money that I had all went into self-development. It all went into courses, learning, metaphysical school, coaching. And I am the result of that. Like, so the proof is in the pudding. My investment has been worth it because I'm here. I'm no surviving. I'm thrive in within my own body and my own mind. And I guess it's maybe no for everybody, because maybe some people are too, I don't know, no willing to let another person in that deep to be able to work with them together co-creatively to change. I would really, just say to people, it's just give things a try also, because there was things I tried that didn't work, that wasn't for me. Things like, so this cold water therapy, I see it work for so many people. It seems amazing. They love it. They are amazing at it. But for me, no, no, you will not get me in that cold water. It's just, oh no. And I think because I'm so wee and fragile, just being cold, I'm like, no. So I stick to all these other things that work for me. And this is where I actually feel a lot of people kind of get stuck, is because just because a certain set of things worked for me, that does not mean it's going to work for anybody else doing it in that order or any of the things. And this is where I feel, where I was always kind of able to help other people, was that I can see them for what they are and who they are, in relation to, their actual energy, and what's good for them, or what would be potentially good for them is definitely not going to be potentially good for me, because I know my kind of elemental makeup and energy. And this is what people really need to take into account. You are a complete, unique, original blueprint. Nobody else has it. So why on earth are you going to people who have got a completely separate blueprint to you, and then you're adopting what they've done and trying to embody it when it's maybe not a right fit for you? And then you think, oh, I'm failing. I'm not doing the best I can. And it's like, well, you're maybe just tuned into a wrong modality that's not quite a fit for you, and it's letting people understand that, so that they explore and get curious about what is a fit for them.
Yeah, 100%. I want you to address the people that are in our kind of wider social circles that have been down all the rabbit holes, but now are properly black pilled and they can't help but, keep staying down there and keep seeing the world through a certain lens. Have you got a coping mechanism for yourself, and what would you say to them? Because I certainly stopped doing that to a wider degree. I mean, I still keep an eye on things, but not to that level. And I obviously got my own ways of dealing with it. But how about your good self? How did you not disappear down all the rabbit holes?
Yeah, well, I think I finally got to a point with everything, is that for the most part, I've zero control over the things that I could potentially get upset about in terms of the reality and what's going on. And I did recognise and realise that you do end up getting trapped in echo chambers, shouting about, it's like waking up in the world every morning and being like, the world's a bad place and there's loads of bad shit going on, but you're never doing anything about it. So this is why it always comes back to you. That's all you've got. It's all you. I mean, even your external home, right, okay, you live in it, but that's no the main one. That's no the important one. So accepting that at some big and deep level, understanding what the universe kind of is based on its energetic setup, there will always be the polarity. Like, you're never going to get away from that. So as much as there is beauty and amazing things and love and all that, there will always be the dark, and we can't, it's like getting stuck in either polarity is where we get fucked up. And this is, see, for me, everything's like so deep and so meaningful. So my name is Lesley Gray, right? I've got 2 different coloured eyes. I've got heterochromia. And these things, they teach me that I am a dual being. I'm a Gemini also. But the other part of me is very scorpionic. So I'm surface level, and I'm curious, and I'm air, but I'm also deep as the darkest ocean. I know darkness. I know, and I'm not scared of the darkness. And I'm also aware of the light, so it's like become it. So you've got the black and you've got the white, and then you become the grey. Neutrality. Just think about the brain. It's grey matter. You've got your left, you've got your right. So for me, it really maintaining your own kind of conscious integrity within yourself to remain in that space. And you're well aware of the left, you're well aware of the right, or the black and white, whatever way you want, hot, cold, whatever way you want to do it, you're always aware of that, but don't get trapped in either. Because, you know, we talk about this a lot, where people get stuck in positive vibes only. It's like,
Yeah.
is it really though? Is it really, really? You know, so it really is. And bring it back to kinesiology. Kinesiology in and of itself is about balance, full stop. That's it. Libra, the scales, you know. So I'm much better than I have ever been at progression and recovery. So, you know, you find a wee bit sort of friction, you go along, you sort of stop, recover for that, you go again. And it's just that understanding that nothing ever stays the same. Always changes. Change is the only constant. You can't avoid it. Not making a choice is making a choice also. You know,
Yes,
it's like
definitely.
all these kind of things. So for me, it is about remaining neutral. And I know when I'm looking at the external reality and I feel things from it, I'm like, right, that needs to go through the discernment filter. This is trying to get into me to make me feel a certain way. And it's now up to me to do that. So I get way better at screening things. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's that just developing that relationship with it, you know?
That sounds really sensible advice to people because I know how it feels. Like you could see so many agendas at play all at once. It's like the perfect storm of agendas, and you could still do that today with what's going on today. But now, having developed some of those skills myself that you're describing, you can actually see and I've always known this. There's a fierce group of creative people out there creating absolute magic. And that's what we've got to tap into because, that's where the beauty is. And I like on your Instagram, you say, I see magic in the mundane. That's nice.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I would say I've had not a luxurious life, yeah, what's the word I'm kind of looking for? I guess kind of like simple, a fairly simple life. I, even although that has been the case, like everything that I've come to learn and do and create for myself has all happened within a very simple space. I didn't need to travel over to Peru to go and live in the Amazonian jungle for 6 months to learn things about myself. I've not been to Bali. I've not done all the sort of stereotypical things that people do that think that is going to, so I'm almost like, kind of like, Asda Price spirituality or
I
something,
love it.
doing it from nothing with nothing, and somehow I find myself here, and I think that's important because for the most part, the most people that I know are kind of like me, and I think it's important to be able to do something when you've got nothing.
100%.
Not everybody has access to copious amounts of money, resources and things like that, and so having these things made accessible is important as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, I totally agree. Now let's move on to what's occupying your work life and your passions these days, because this is obviously, I've noticed in the last couple of years you've been more public about what you're doing, but give us an idea what happened first. How did you get into what you're doing now?
Yeah, well, so as you know, I had my YouTube channel to start off with, and my YouTube channel was Lesley Gray. But then I realised quite quickly, because of the nature of the sort of conversations that I was getting involved in then, I changed my name to Rock Vibrations on YouTube. And that was just, I had that channel so that I could watch YouTube and store playlists and things like that. Then I got an interest and a keen hobby for editing, but not editing in a kind of formal fashion. way like creative, like, psychedelic, like doing loads of mad things with symmetry, overlaying things, and I loved it. And a lot of the stuff that I was recording was my partner, he's a neon glass bender, so he makes neon signs. It's a great visual thing to record and everything like that. So I was incorporating basically everything that I was doing in my daily life, things that I was learning about in relation to consciousness, reality, learning, growing, all this kind of stuff. And then my creative side with the neon and learning about that, which, by the way, neon in and of itself is alchemy. It's so similar to what we are trying to achieve as humans. So when you've got a neon tube, you've got a big, long, straight bit of glass. You have got to bend that glass and manipulate it into whatever shape you want. But before you can create the light, you have got to take all the impurities out of the glass vessel, like our body vessel. And then once all the impurities get sublimated out, the gas goes in, and then it gets like bombarded. And then when you apply mercury, the messenger, which is highly alchemical, mercury goes in and it makes it bright and it gets this big illumination. And I was like, this is what we are doing as humans. This is literally the process that we are doing. And the more we sublimate the bad shit that needs to go, the more light we can embody,
Right.
So it's just these like really cool fascinations. And this is what I mean about finding magic in the mundane, because Sandy hadn't actually even thought about this in that through that lens before. And when I said that to him, he was like, well, I would agree with that. So,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
So you then took a real interest in film and film studies. Just tell us how you got into those kind of things.
Yeah. So I had realised, this is a thing that I love doing. Then, so I was friends with a guy on Facebook, Gary Fraser, who he made this amazing documentary called Everybody's Child. He won a BAFTA for it. And this was incredible. I just loved the style of his documentary and how he did it. And it's about his life, it's an incredible story. I would suggest to people, give it a watch. And then a couple of years after that, he was doing workshops. So I went to one of his workshops first off because I was obsessed about making a documentary about neon. So that was when it started. And then about 6 months later, I went to another project that he was involved in with a creative recovery charity called the Scheme Levy. They're based in Livingston. And we made a short film, a whole big group of us. And it was actually at that point, that was when I met Ali Robertson. So Ali is the guy who owns GTF Films, who I'm the assistant director. And we've just literally finished filming our first independent feature-length film called Powder that he wrote. So yeah, that was, kind of like where I began with it. And then it was, so not last year, but the year before, I did actually apply to college and I got accepted to do a film course. But there was things in my family life, like my partner, he actually had a heart attack. And by the way, he's not been vaccinated. It was non-vax related.
Bless him.
Yeah, I just want to put that out there. So I was like, right, okay, I didn't know in relation to how this was going to affect family life and stuff. So I didn't do the course that year. And then it was last year. I was like, right, everything's cool. Get on the course, got on the course. And now I'm literally just about to finish that course and I'll start my HND in the August. But I had already, so the GTF films, I've already been doing that for 2 years now. So becoming like an assistant director before you've even got the qualifications is kind of unheard of. It's like I've done everything back to front, but it's one of these things. It's like never the things that I am capable of now because I see them in my real life. I didn't really know that, but Ali seen those things in me, and he encouraged me to, fulfill that role, which I ended up doing.
Fantastic.
And I love it.
Before you get on further on the experience, tell us what an assistant director's job is.
Well, basically, it's my job to keep the director on track and also make sure that his vision that he has for the film stays true to it. So, when we're shooting, I'll have like shot lists and schedules and stuff like that I've got to liaise with the DOP. So DOP is Director of Photography, and he's actually the one maintaining the vision, and it's really important that the assistant director, so you've got assistant director, then you've got second AD, which is second assistant director, and there's just this wee chain of command, and we've all got our roles and responsibilities, and it's all so that the machine works fully. So the way that I kind of see all of the filming stuff is that every person is like an integral component within the machine. You move one component out, it doesn't work. So everybody's jobs, even the runner, everybody's jobs, they're all just as important as each other. Maybe some jobs at different times of the filming, it's more high stakes. There's maybe more things needed, but essentially over the board, it's a machine and it needs oiled. And I see my energy as being like the lubricant or the oil that helps maintain and make sure that the whole machine just keeps on functioning,
Do you know what? It gives me goosebumps to hear where you've come from to what you're describing now. You just come alive. I can see that it really is amazing. And it just makes me so happy that, someone can come from quite a dark place and figure out. And this whole thing about, I use the word manifestation, but it's for me, it's a bit like identity shifting. So it's about changing who you see yourself as, and the stories you tell yourself has obviously led to a succession of events that you're naturally attracting, because your energy is all about, I want to do this. I'm obsessed with neon. I'm making films. And then people come into your life that inspire you or prompt you to do something. Did you still have a life coach whilst you were going into that, or had you stopped by then?
No, yeah. So it's one of these things. If for whatever reason I can't handle a thing on my own, or I need a wee bit of help, I just pick up my phone and be like, James, he's there. And he helps me work through it. But, they are rare now to happen. Funny story, actually, James is playing one of our characters in our next film that we're making called Send Him Home. He's got quite a, well, I guess a wee bit of a controversial character to portray in this. So it's amazing seeing, people who have grown with on this journey come in and experience the filming and stuff like that as well. So that's pretty cool.
Amazing. And you told me that you'd like to start a podcast, or maybe even 2 podcasts in the next, in the near future. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, well, it's just, I do have a space ready. I've just got to get the equipment and soundproof it and stuff like that, and get my neon signs in it as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, over the last 12 years, I've met some incredible people, and they have got some of the most amazing stories to tell. And I want to help people, share these stories, and yeah, just kind of see and take it from there. But I will also be doing a podcast with GTF Films as well in relation to filming and all that kind of stuff as well, But for the one that's for me, it's going to be probably very controversial, obviously, like some of the characters that I've already agreed to come on. They're very controversial, but I think very necessary for this reality and the consciousness. And I'm willing and prepared to talk about the difficult stuff.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more mainstream podcasts tackle big, chunky subjects. I'm watching the hosts wake up. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Stephen Bartlett, but he's he's one of the dragons, and he's got his own massive podcast. But I'm watching him realize things during a conversation, and you think, wow, is he gonna shift? Is he gonna actually make the jump? I think he's on his way on a few subjects. So Lesley, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing your journey. Is there anything that I should have asked that I haven't yet asked that you'd like to share?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Fantastic. Well, I know that people listening and watching this will take a lot from it. especially those that have found the last 5 years hard. And I think you're a shining example of how to tackle that inner work. And you've given a few pointers as to how to do it as well, which is amazing. So how can people find you when it comes to the podcast? Where would you like them to go initially?
Well, so I'll be on like my social media. So Rock Vibrations is like my Instagram handle and my YouTube handle. I'm just Lesley Gray on Facebook. But if you follow GTF Films, that's where you'll get all the updates in relation to Powder. I've seen some of the stills from Powder, and honestly, like, yeah, it's incredible. Like the level of them and just the overall look. It's going to be amazing to see this baby come alive,
I can't
like our
wait.
first film. And so, yeah, if people could support us on the film Powder, and when it comes out, give it a little watch. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I saw you on was it a poster or was it just a banner for the film? Is that because you're in it, or are you
Yes, I'm acting in it as well.
Oh,
I know what
amazing.
one you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was Jim King. We were on his podcast the other day, and he made this poster with AI. I blew it up, and I zoned in on my face. I was like, "Oh my god, it doesn't even look like me." I'm chuckling away.
That's why I'm asking, because I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Is it a look
so
alike?
I play one of the main protagonists' mum. So Penny, one of the characters, played by Jo Fergie, who she's amazing, by the way. She's absolutely brilliant. I play her mum. I've only got one scene in it, but this scene is really pivotal to the film because I'm basically letting everybody know why the group and the history and the dynamics of the whole film, why everything all is the way that it is, So I'm like this gatekeeper that just releases all this kind of information. So yeah, and that was like kind of my first sort of time acting. And the only thing that kind of got me through that was like, right, Lesley, and you understand that getting comfortable, being uncomfortable is growth. Get it done. Because as an assistant director, you'll now then have an empathy and an understanding what it's like to be on set as an actor. So you then understand how they guys are going through that whole process themselves. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And one link I want to call out, if it's possible, if he's still going, is you mentioned, was it a metaphysical university? Yeah, perhaps we can share the link to that in the show notes. I'll put all the links to GTF Films, your Insta and your Facebook in the show notes. Lesley, you are absolutely unplugged and now unstoppable. It's a joy to talk to you, and I can't wait to see how things pan out for you. Thanks once again for your time. Until next time, folks, see you soon. Before you go, if something in this conversation resonated with you, if you're feeling that pull to change something in your life, then I've created a space for you. It's a free community where I share deeper conversations, tools and experiences to help you unplug from the noise and start rebuilding a life that actually feels aligned. Inside, you'll find things like my 14-day Unplugged challenge, guided breathwork, and even some of the music I've been creating as part of this journey. It's not about information overload, it's about transformation. So if you're ready to take this step just beyond listening, come and join us. We'd love to have you there. You'll find the link in the description. I'll see you on the inside.
Yeah. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart, unplugged and unstoppable. Wow. Yeah. I was walking through a world of static, screens glowing blue, all automatic. Every smile looked pre-designed, every thought felt not like mine. Billboard shouting who to be, but something deep inside wasn't fooled so easily. Then the veil cracked just a little light, and I saw the truth hiding in plain sight. I put the glasses on, then it all made sense. Controlling the shadows, fear as defense. But the moment I saw it, I couldn't pretend no more. Unplugged and unstoppable, breaking through illusion like a prophet on a roof. signs really say obey, consume, but I walk my own way. Unplugged and unstoppable, yeah, my spirit's unbreakable. From fake paradise to the real inner light, I'm awake now, and nothing can dim my sight. I saw puppets pulling puppet strings. I saw kings bow down to darker kings. I saw people sleeping with their eyes wide open, dreaming in a cage with the doors unbroken. But once you taste freedom, even just a drop, the lies lose flavor and the masks fall off. Yeah, the truth is fierce, but it's beautiful too. It burns you clean and it brings you through. Put the glasses on, watch the world unmasked. Every coded message, every hidden task, and the fear they feed you, man, it never lasts. Once you know, I'm plugged and unstoppable, breaking through illusion like a prophet on a road. They live taught me what the signs really say. Obey, conform, but I'm not built that way. Unplugged and unstoppable, my soul's incorruptible. From the fake paradise to my real inner rise, I'm awake now with open truth in a breath, but a bass in a chest. Light in the mind, flicker, ignite, rewind. Shadows run when the heart expands. You're a god disguised in human hands. Awake and sovereign, original flame. You were born remembering your true name. I'm unplugged and unstoppable. Yeah, the system's impossible until you see through it. Yeah, they live, show me how the world was sold.